Hey guys, welcome to the F.A.M project. I'm Delynn.
And my name is Jason.
So we have an interview today for you guys that is going to give your family some tips and tricks on how to keep it together during these times.
So we're grateful to have our guest today, Amber Trueblood, joining us from San Diego, California. Want to introduce her. So Amber has her MBA. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She's an author, a retreat host, and the mother of 4 sons. Interestingly, Amber wrote Stretch Marks, which was her debut book, while on a Broadway tour with her husband and her 4 sons, while traveling over 60 cities across the US and Canada. Amber's most passionate about providing mothers simple and realistic tools to guide them towards a happier, calmer parenting life. And her unique approach includes helping clients clarify their values and priorities, then showing them how to use that knowledge to make better disciplined decisions, relieve parental guilt, reduce self-judgment, and become a truly enlightened parent. Wow. Amber, we are so grateful to have you on today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
So let's dive into it. You have a master's in marriage and family therapy. So
Yes.
What made you decide that you actually wanted to get into that field in the first place?
So I've always been, as long as I can remember, very, kind of twofold, wanting to help people and also really fascinated with understanding human behavior and why we do the things we do, why we behave the way we do, why we say the things we do, and really understanding where that comes from was fascinating to me. So as long as I can remember, I wanted to be a psychologist.
So 4 sons,
Yes.
still at home, right?
Yeah, right now they are 7, 9, 11, and 12. I always have to kind of look up to recall because they keep, having birthdays and changing their ages.
No, it's amazing how they just keep getting older for some reason.
Right.
So obviously there's a ton of subjects that we could cover with you interviewing someone with your experience and expertise. But through your experience, what has been your kind of most enjoyable subject that you like to work with and why? Like, what's that thing that you really enjoy talking about the most?
So a lot of my work and what I'm passionate about is really helping parents to, get clear, be kind with themselves, be really honest with themselves about what works and what doesn't work without the judgment and the shoulds that come from our outer environment, whether that's the schools or religion or your culture or the neighbors or your mother-in-law or even just your inner doubts. And so really helping, giving them the support and the inspiration and the tools to kind of let go of all of those outer pressures so they can become really clear and frankly be the kind of parent that they want to be, which I think is going to then raise a next generation of individuals who, have all of the skills and abilities and characteristics that we would love for them to have.
Over the past 30 days, this country, the world even longer, we've been faced with a new challenge. And I'm sure, particularly in your field of work, you've had to kind of make some pivots with not only in your own family life, but maybe what it is that we're, sharing with parents and moms just because of what's happened from COVID-19. So with COVID-19 being out there, you've been doing a ton of work even recently with trying to help parents out there around this. So what have been some of those things that you've been focused on, through this unique challenge that we're facing with COVID-19?
There were so many shifts that happened simultaneously that people didn't get to choose, working from home suddenly, working with all of your kids at home as well, figuring out how to do schooling at home now, how to all live in the same space 24/7. So I found myself focusing mostly on giving people tools for relationship support and kind of like preventative maintenance tools that you can use to help support your family cohesion and your relationship with your spouse or any other adults that are living in your home right now. So that's kind of one area. Second area has been helping parents kind of deal with the mindset shift that is required when you go from schooling in a traditional fashion to schooling all of a sudden at home, and understanding like what that means. What does that mean for you? What is important to you about educating your kids? Like, what does education mean to you? That's a big shift. And to me, that's a really important question, because you cannot, most people, replicate school at home. Like, it's just, there's no recess, there's no PE, there's no soccer practice, there's no art teacher, there's no, like, there's no kids in the classroom. I mean, it's a whole different world. So trying to replicate that and having your expectations be over here, is just not realistic, and you're setting yourself up for really a lot of frustration and disappointment. So that's a second area that I've been kind of trying to provide information and content and support on. And then a third one is, self-care. How do you work from home and handle all of these changes? How do you support your own emotional and mental health through this so that you can really, persist, so that you can survive this and maybe thrive through it? And then the last one has been really helping people who kind of have those other things down, and they're not maybe in panic mode, but they're in like, okay, how do I manage my anxiety and find the gifts, find the opportunities here? Like, what can I add to this? Like, what can I learn? What can I do that will make this be like, wow, those weeks or months that we were in quarantine, like, have changed our lives for the better. And now we're doing and thinking and feeling and behaving and communicating in ways that are amazing, and we never would have gotten here had it not been for this experience.
Yeah. So my wife and I, we have 6 kids. And one of the things that, we've been talking about, obviously there's a lot of parents and families out there that, obviously, I want to be careful of saying this because I don't want to take away from the challenges and the level of stress and anxiety that are around some families right now. But one of the things that my wife has mentioned several times is she's actually enjoyed how life seemed to slow down a little bit. So things have slowed down a little bit, and, we've been able to focus and spend more time kind of as a family connecting. So there's definitely some gifts involved with this situation, obviously. And obviously, as challenging this situation is, what you're saying with making sure parents have the tools and resources. I know that we've had to make some pivots in our own home because of just the situation. What pivots have you guys had to make then? I mean, obviously you were kind of already, you've known how to homeschool your kids, and that's been a part of the culture of your family before. But what types of pivots have you seen that you guys have had to make as a family since the start of COVID?
Because we had homeschooled before, we had already kind of gone through the kind of the moans and groans and the aches and pains of figuring out what works best and what works best for each kid, and, a math tutor that we can Skype with. And so our pivot was much quicker, I think. And, my husband's taking on a primary parent role and, taking care of a lot more of that, whereas I've gone into more of a work mode. Yeah. And then there's that balance of knowing, when he wasn't feeling well the other day, and he's able to say, hey, how many more interviews do you have today? Because I'm starting to hit a wall, I could use some more backup, I don't need to go lay down, but I could use a second hand here. And so we've now developed, a communication style where we're able to articulate our needs better to each other without, taking offense or feeling like you're being bossed around, or all of those things that can come up for a lot of couples who aren't accustomed to both working and living in the same space 24/7 with children.
So with your expertise, I feel like you personally would be kind of hyper aware of these situations and maybe understanding how to more fully address them, or you kind of know how to execute a plan. And you have this mindset of, here's what we should be doing. But so if we're looking right now at, what it is that we can kind of share with other parents, out there, moms, do you feel like you've developed a methodology or a system yet in regards to parenting skills or techniques, particularly though around this new dynamic of the family with COVID-19 that you could share with the audience?
I do have a system, but I'm going to answer your question in two different ways. I would first encourage everybody to take a moment, take a deep breath, and realize you've gone through a lot of shifts, and none of them were purposeful or your choice or your timing. So let's just all say, wow, like you're doing a bang up job. Whatever's happening in your house, like you're doing great. Everybody's in virtually the same exact situation. So when I hear people worrying about like their kids falling behind, or, you know, everybody's falling behind, whatever that means to you. And I happen to not agree with that statement at all. I don't think anybody's falling behind of anything. In fact, I think a lot of parents are going to find their kids flourishing in ways they hadn't anticipated. So I would say first, be kind to yourself. The second thing I would say is it's really important to be honest with yourself at this time. And I don't mean about your weaknesses, but I mean about your strengths. And be really honest with yourself about what will work for you and your family. So this means getting really clear on what's important to you right now. So if you can get really clear and honest with yourself about what's important to you, at the end of this, what's going to be important, that your family is still getting along, that they're a cohesive group, that you've survived this emotionally, that the relationships that are most important to you in your life are maybe even stronger now. I'm guessing that's going to be in the top 5 for most of the people listening to this. And so that will then help you make decisions about everything else in the rest of your day. Because if it doesn't support one of your top 4 things that are most important to you, then it goes out the window. It can be delegated, it can be trashed, it can be postponed, because there's only so many things we can hold right now and pay attention to. Right? So if the things that you can hold are those top 4 or 5 things that are most important to your family. So if it's family cohesion, if it's, keeping the kids engaged and active and healthy, whatever those 3 or 4 things, if it's taking care of your own mental health, and then maybe taking care of the relationship between just you and your spouse and making sure that that's really as whole and healthy as possible, then everything you're doing, if that aligns with one of those 4 things or more, you're golden. Then you're going to be happy at the end of this. You're going to feel good about it. But if you're spending your time and your energy and your resources and your worries about things that aren't even in your top 4, you're going to come out really frustrated because you're going to be spending a lot of time and energy, but in areas that aren't valuable to you.
So obviously, so much of it is, it's a mindset. It's really trying to focus on creating this mindset that's going to kind of help you almost create a narrative that's going to help you stay positive and see the good throughout the challenges that's taking place, right?
I think that's the first step, like you said. That's the mindset. That's like the foundation. Then you do need skills. You need tools. You need tricks. Like, okay, great. All right. So I know what's important to me, but like, how do I do that now? Right. How do I maintain, a really positive, great relationship with my husband when I am really scared, I'm reading the news, I'm freaked out, and he's never worked, his job is on a hiatus, so he's worried about money, and he's never dealt with the kids 24/7, so his patience is low with them. There's all of these things come up. So even once you do know, even once you're really clear on what's important to you, then you can say, okay, now I need tools for each one of these things. Yeah. As I share them, listen for, what kind of makes a little spark go off in your head or gets you nodding like, oh, wow, I used to do that when I was really stressed out in college. And it totally helped me. Like, I haven't gone on a run or done this, for ages, like done a puzzle with a glass of wine, like after, instead of watching the news. So as I say little tips and tricks, when something clicks with you, that's when that's okay. That's what you have to add to your list and really implement.
You've been able to be, kind of front and center, working with parents, sharing a ton of content. I mean, this is incredible information that you've already been sharing with us just today, on the show here. But if I remember correctly, you've just come out with a type of kind of program or something that parents could actually get if people are wanting to, this stuff that they're hearing is resonating with them. They're like, gosh, I want to hear more from Amber. I mean, walk me through what you've come out with something recently and maybe share where people could get that resource if they're wanting to look more into, a lot of these things you're talking about.
I have a podcast coming out. It launches on Mother's Day. So ambertrueblood.com is my website. So that'll house everything. And then I have what I was developing at the time of this was my virtual boot camp for moms. Because I found I was doing all of these amazing retreats that were wonderful, but I need something where I can connect with people virtually while they're home. So I was working on this thing, and now everybody's in their home and nobody's going on any retreats. So the virtual boot camp for moms, for parents actually, will be available soon as well. So that's on ambertrueblood.com. In the meantime, I have my book, which is called Stretch Marks, and a journal that accompanies it that you can get as well if you want, that are on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com and all of that stuff under Amber Trueblood. But in it are as many little gems and nuggets of tools and tricks and practices that you can choose from and implement into your life as possible.
So let me shift gears a little bit here.
Yeah.
So if you had a crystal ball, if we're going to be looking into the future here, obviously there's just so many unknowns right now about what COVID-19 is going to do to just society and culture, and what, is life ever really going to get back to normal? And you hear a lot of uncertainty and anxiety kind of around that. But I mean, in your opinion, if you were to give a prediction, I mean, what do you think will happen as a result of COVID-19 as we move into the future with our family dynamics and how it's going to affect us?
Gosh, that's the question, right? It's a really, really tough question. I think it's going to look different for everybody. So my first answer to that question is, some people, it's going to be really helpful if they focus day to day, week to week. Can you handle what's on your plate today? Can you make the best out of what the situation is presently now? Because if you can do that every day, you're going to be okay no matter what. So that's my first answer. My second answer is more just from a human being perspective, is I think everybody's going to take different things from this. I think that people who are ready and at a place where they really want to uncover more of what's important to them, where they have been just waiting for the time that they can slow down and reconnect with people and reconnect with themselves and get out of this kind of roller coaster that they've been on, and then ask, like, do I want to get back on that roller coaster? Do I want to go on this ride instead? Or do I want to just hang back for a little bit? So I think my hope is that most of us will come out with a clarity about that will really shift and make the possibility for much happier lives. And that we will come out with some, communication skills and connected relationships that we didn't have prior to that. So I think that is huge. And then I think that there's going to be a subset of people that are not always, but lean towards, holding a lot of frustration towards others, a lot of judgment towards others, a lot of anger and resentment. And those are probably the people that felt those emotions a lot before all of this. They're feeling them now even more. And not that it's not rightly so, I get it. But they will probably continue to feel that way afterwards. And that that there's some character traits that will stay the same.
Yeah, I mean, obviously sometimes we just have to learn to be a little bit more tolerant, a little bit more patient. And now, if any time is the time to be more tolerant with the all humans and people around us, and not being less judgmental. And that's something that I even find myself needing to improve on, is being more tolerant and realizing everyone's going through a hard time and challenge. And sometimes you just got to give people a break, because they probably are doing the best that they can at the time.
Yeah. And I always love, there's an author and speaker, Eric Edmiades, that talks about the hindsight window. And he says, people get really frustrated when there's trauma or when there's, any sort of negative thing happens in your life. And happiness is equated to the amount of time that it takes for you to get from that moment to where you look back and see the gifts, see what you learned, what happened as a result that was really wonderful, that would happen had that terrible thing not occurred. And so that hindsight window, sometimes it takes people 20 years, sometimes it takes people 20, but the shorter you can, you can have that time frame be where you can see the gifts in this, potentially very terrible, awful situation, the sooner you can identify the gifts for yourself or your family or any gifts, the better off you're going to be in the long run. And I love that.
Yeah, no, that is great. So I guess let me ask, as we kind of close up here, would you say there's any like favorite resources out there right now that people could turn, that you could navigate parents to, that would say, gosh, here's just some really good resources that you need to look into that could be helpful?
Gotcha. So I would say first, be really clear on what kind of resources you want. It would be most useful for you in particular at this given moment in time, because there's a lot out there. And if you just start checking like, hey, dealing with a family in, during COVID, you're going to come up with 8 million things. And maybe there's only 5 that are perfect for you. So the more clear you can get, like, so if you're very clear on like, oh, you know what? Like this is a perfect time to connect with my family. And that's really important to me because we've been really disconnected because I was working a lot before this and now I'm not working at all. So how can I connect in a way that is fun for me? And you know what, like I really want to teach them this old hobby that I would love to do again. And I think teaching a kid an old hobby or an old game you used to like to play, or anything that you do one-on-one or directly with them is huge. So for instance, my husband used to be in the movie industry. So last night we watched the movie Avatar the night before. And then last night we watched this whole documentary on the making of the movie. And it was fascinating. But so sharing something you love with one of your children. So if you say, oh, you know what? Like I love knitting. Like I'm going to teach my kids how to knit or how to do card tricks or how to play hacky sack. Like, okay, so I'm going to go on Amazon, I'm going to order a hacky sack, or I'm going to specifically look for music from the 80s, and we're going to have a dance party on Friday night. So if I think the answer to your question is, the more specific what you're searching for, then the more likely you are to find it, and the more likely you are to have it work, in a positive way for your family.
Right.
So it's like if you look up Facebook groups, there's Facebook groups on everything under the sun. So if it's called unschooling. There's a whole thing called unschooling. And then there's outschooling, which you can even do from home because there's all of these museums that are offering free online tours. Yeah. There's national parks that offer free stuff. There's, Coursera.org, I think it is, offers all kinds of free college level classes with real college professors teaching these amazing classes. So there's all kinds of stuff like that. But if you know specifically what you want, you're just far more likely to find it, I think, because otherwise it's too daunting.
Yeah. I mean, even as you're talking, our whole entire conversation, I'm getting these great ideas from what you're saying about different things that, we can be doing in our family. But it sounds like if people are really looking for some good resources out there, the first thing they have to identify is very specific, just to reiterate what you were saying, is, well, what type of resources am I looking for specifically? And maybe not just, let's just type in resources for homeschooling, but very specifically, what is it that I want to know about homeschooling? And then finding something very specific and relevant to that so you can narrow down your search so that you can really get the right resource that you're looking for. The last question that we want to ask you, before we end this great segment here, is any thoughts, anything else that you'd like to share with the audience that you would really want people to understand or know that maybe we haven't talked about yet?
That people are kind to themselves during this time. and that, it's very easy to focus on what's going wrong and what's scary and what's uncertain, especially if you're, allowing a lot of that type of content into your world right now, which is hard not to for a lot of people. So if you are, if you're in that mode, then you're going to be absorbing a lot of that. And that's just going to probably make more challenges for you in your life and in your family and financially and all of that. Because if we're coming from a state of, clarity and confidence and kindness and compassion, then we can think more clearly and make better decisions moving. But if we're in a place of fear and panic, probably not going to make the best choices, and we're probably not going to be super kind and patient and respectful and appreciative of the people we really would like to maintain in our lives by the end of this,
Right.
So if you want to be in the bucket of people that are going to come out of this like stronger and connected versus really like hurt and broken and disconnected and blaming and maybe separating from your spouse. I mean, there's going to be some changes that happen for some people during this period because of fear, not really because the relationship isn't working. It's just because people are scared right now. So the more you can adjust and be really acknowledge where you are now and where you want to be, and then find those to work for you, whether it's, meditation practice or taking a bath or being better at communicating to your spouse that you're appreciative and that you're a little scared and that you need their help and how you need their help. The more you can find those tools that work for you and then leave them, take the time and space that you need for your own mental health and the practices that that will facilitate bonding and connection with your partner and any other adults that you have in your house and your children, that's going to be huge. It's going to be golden. And you may just find that at the end of your hindsight window, wow, you came out of it, connected and man, like so clear on what's important to you moving forward. And, knowing your kids better, your kids increasing their level of confidence and engagement and, and their cohesion with each other. Like, there could just be some huge gains, and will that be awesome to look back to a few months from now.
Amber, that is amazing. And everything that you've talked about, I mean, such incredible information. And we can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing your expertise and your passion and your love for what you're doing. And guys, please go check out either her book, Stretch Marks. You can find it on Amazon, or you said even with Barnes & Noble has it.
Everywhere you can find books, yeah.
Yeah. And then check out her website, ambertrueblood.com. She has some incredible resources out there, some incredible things for parents and for moms. And again, Amber, we just can't thank you enough for sharing you today with us and all your information that you've provided. So
I do put a lot of stuff on Facebook. If you look up either Amber Trueblood or Stretch Marks, you'll find me. And I've been posting a lot of like articles and interviews and tips and then links to other resources I found. So that'll be a good source of information as well.
Okay. Yeah, no, awesome. Amber, thank you so much again. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for doing this. This is really important work. Appreciate it.
Great.
Take care.
Thanks for checking out the F.A.M project today. We really hope you enjoyed this and found some useful tools for you and your family.
It really was a great interview, and check out the F.A.M project on our website, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We will constantly be uploading stuff for you guys to utilize in your daily life, for yourself, your family, and your friends. Take care, and we will see you on the next one.